All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a worldwide escalation here Monday, September 25th at 10:58 a.m. Hawaii time. A worldwide escalation, and things have just intensified as we expected this week. I'm expecting major events to go down in and around Ukraine. Biden, who's now been sending Abrams tanks, which he originally said if he sent MiGs and fighter jets and tanks, he said himself it would be World War III. Now we have subsequent drone attacks taking place almost on the daily. There has been 33 members of Putin's Navy deceased now as a result of the Ukrainian attack by their forces on the headquarters, of course, of Vladimir Putin at Sevastopol in that key naval port. And also the first admiral allegedly has perished and is also deceased. I did find it interesting that that number was 33 in addition to the admiral. And so we're seeing a lot of escalation on the war front. We see world leaders and politicians now calling for an invasion into Russia. Now, what's interesting about this, and I reported yesterday that Tucker Carlson, of course, was stopped by the U.S. government, according to him, from interviewing Vladimir Putin, to getting the other side of the story. Remember, in years past, people like Barbara Walters were able to interview very controversial figures. But for some reason, Tucker Carlson was stopped by the authorities here in the United States that tell us Americans, that we have a free press and that we have free speech, and said, you cannot interview Vladimir Putin. The American people are not allowed to hear any kind of other side of the story. They will only hear whatever the state says. Of course, the mainstream media, largely controlled by the left, largely controlled and intertwined, of course, with government power as well. So, typically they take away the mouthpiece and the megaphone of alternative information prior to the outbreak of war. So, to me, I find it very concerning that Tucker Carlson, as powerful as he is, as wealthy as he is, as well known as he is, and as such an astute journalist, to be prohibited from getting the other side of the story tells me that they're launching a great deal of propaganda ahead of the escalation of what they know is coming. Now, of course, October 4th is this EMS, electromagnetic surprise, of which they'll be sending EMS alerts to all of your cell phones. This means you're going to get a warning. You're going to hear a warning sound on your cell phone, whether or not you're a Verizon or T-Mobile or any other cellular provider. They're going to take over all of the airwaves. So on that fateful day, October 4th, and they've also rolled out what they said would be a backup if there's, quote, significant events for October 11th as well. This is a nationwide system alert. And we have to ask, why are they doing this? At the same time, it appears that the United States economically is struggling. Of course, we just hit $33 trillion in debt. Hyperinflation has taken root in American households. Most average Americans, if you interview them, and I've done this, I've actually gone on the streets just for my own intel, and I've asked them, both right and left, Democrat, Republicans, Libertarian, do you think that the United States is headed in the right direction? 9 out of 10 people say no. 9 out of 10 people say it's not going in the right direction, and 9 out of 10 people say that they actually fear we could have a civil war in the United States, and they also fear World War III, which this is what it's leading up to, because Joe Biden, the current president of the United States, warned that if he was to supply through other countries like Poland, MiG fighter jets to Ukraine, and Vladimir Zelensky, a former comedian actor, that it would mean World War III. Now, they're doing this now. But when you look at it on the ground, it actually appears, and I'm not defending Putin, but it looks by all means that I can tell that Russia is winning this war overwhelmingly, which is also why I expect U.S. interests to raise the stakes and up the ante on the attacks that we're currently seeing. And, when they have nothing else to give, they're going to create another problem and they're going to create another disruption. Now, Donald Trump, President of the United States, of course, who's also running for the 2024 race, had some very stark and startling, I would say very alarming words today. This is a warning. It is a shot across the bow. For all of you tuning in, I don't care if you're on the left or the right. I'm going to read to you what he had to say earlier, because he is telling the American people how bad it is. He is showing the American people how terrible, how dire straits, how you're in the Paul Revere moment right now, as I'm about 5 minutes in this live broadcast. Please, we are the Paul Reveres, ladies and gentlemen. You are the Paul Reveres. You guys need to get this message out here. Trump vowed to take the airwaves away once he becomes president of the United States and will be investigating, this is a direct quote, not my opinion, NBC, MSNBC, which I've always called MSNPC, and he calls MSDNC, which I think is kind of funny, for, quote, country threatening treason, end quote. Quote, this is what Trump has to say, he'll be investigating Comcast, the parent company, what he calls, quote, the fake news, NBC, MSNBC, and the parent company Comcast for, quote, country threatening treason. Now, I want this to sink in for a minute. Understand where you are, wherever you're sitting in America, rural America, the big cities. Maybe you're out here in beautiful Hawaii like I am. Maybe you're out internationally. You've already left the United States. You're watching the implosion from afar right now. You have the President of the United States, Donald Trump, spending his entire Sunday night on his platform, True Social, raging at NBC News and NBC and pledging to have them investigated for the words that I just said. End quote, essentially. And that's not all. He also came out earlier and said that he suggests that, and he says this is worthy of the DEATH penalty, and says that this is also treason, citing Mark Milley, who will be stepping down. Notice, all these people are stepping down. General Mark Milley is stepping down now, okay, before things get worse, before America implodes. All these people exit before the implosion so that they're hoping that you forget their names. Here's General Mark Milley. Okay, now this is the same individual that directly interfered with presidential powers of Donald Trump and was communicating, in my opinion, as a traitor to the Chinese and sending them, this is what Trump says, intel, okay, that the United States, and revealing things he should have not been revealing to the Chinese, to the CCP Communist Party. This dude right here, now he's stepping down. Okay, probably because he doesn't want to show his face. And Trump is calling for at least what Yahoo News is saying. I think they're probably bringing it out of proportion a little bit, but you can see the word there in reverse. Okay? I mean, there could not be a greater escalation than what we're currently seeing now. So with the indictments of not just Donald Trump, sending the country into absolute chaos, proving that the president isn't even safe. As he's been right about, they're coming for you next, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't stop with Trump. They're coming for both the right and they're coming for both the left. As we see the indictments with Hunter Biden, as we see brewing indictments for Joe Biden, and of course, my opinion on Joe is that he will step down because his health is very ill right now, and they're looking to replace him more than likely by Kamala Harris, who spent most of her younger years actually not even in the United States. She was actually living in Canada, like not even in the USA, for most of her childhood. So, I mean, it kind of tells you everything you need to know there. And then I believe they will be attempting to install Michelle Obama. Okay, so the Democratic Party, which basically runs, these royal families, like the Obamas, okay, and the Bidens, and it's not just one party, it's the Bushes. This is what was different about Trump. Trump was a wild card that actually got into the White House who wasn't a part of the oligarchy. He was just a rich dude, okay, that had tremendous success as a street fighter out of New Jersey who actually won. I mean, if you look at social media statistics, Trump overwhelmingly has the American people's support. When you look at Biden, no one's watching. In fact, this is why they turned off the downward likes on various social media platforms, because they couldn't allow the American people to see how much Biden was losing support and how much most of Americans actually agree with freedom and liberty and are American patriots and don't want anything that's happening to the country right now. Most Americans, I would argue, do not support the war in Ukraine. I don't. I never have. I've been outspoken from the very beginning. We have more problems here in the United States that need to be solved. We have cities where drug addicts are pissing and crapping on the streets in places like San Francisco that have become incredibly dangerous, in laughing stocks where needles are littered everywhere in America. Yet they're spending your tax dollars without a vote for a non-NATO country and sending it over to a comedian in the name of Vladimir Zelensky. We have our own problems here in America. The government is shutting down in the next few days. October 1st is D-Day for the national debt. If politicians in Congress does not authorize additional trillions of hyperinflationary debt that can never be paid back, which will eventually lead to a reset, there is a stark possibility that government benefits and non-essentials will no longer get paid in the United States. This could eventually lead, although they protect it at first, to Social Security, Medicare, and welfare. You are watching an empire collapse as a result of their mismanagement of their finances, a growing unsustainable debt, and egregious, irresponsible, negligent wars that are being funded against the will of the American people. Same thing happened to Rome. Cultural decline, financial decline, and more importantly, orchestrated division by those in power, which eventually lowers morale and is a part of the propaganda technique of overthrowing nation states. And this is what I believe is happening. So I want you to keep this in mind. Be strong in your faith. Be strong in your patriotism. Understand that red-blooded Americans here in the United States will defend this country, just like our founding fathers and are. MAGA, MAGA. I don't agree with everything that Trump does. I have my disagreements. I've been very vocal and outspoken about them. And you know the one issue I have a lot of beef with. But I still support the majority of things that Donald Trump is doing to save this country. Because what he is doing is not easy. And we must form alliances as we take this country back. This is absolutely terrible. Now, of course, we also had a U.S. politician who happens to be a senator who's currently going down in a ball of flames, proving the massive corruption of the rats that currently live in Washington, D.C. He's not a Menendez brother, but he kind of is. Mr. Menendez here, who is being accused of bribery, payoffs, and all other kinds of shenanigans, which I'm sure he probably just has powerful people that kind of want him out. Because I would suspect there's a lot more politicians. Again, if we look at the Bidens in particular, what many people call the Biden crime family, there's been tremendous payoffs and inside deals, not just with Hunter, but arguably with Joe himself regarding Ukraine. He has openly spoken about this, how they have possibly, these are the accusations, misused their political power for economic and financial gain. This is a nightmare. We are seeing a nightmare unravel here in the United States of America. So we see taxpayers, of course, being stuck with the bag. In fact, you remember all those oligarchs' yachts and mansions that were seized in Russia? Remember the Russian oligarchs? You know who's currently paying for the maintenance and the seizures of those assets? You, the American people. In fact, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal today that tells you just that. That taxpayers in the United States are actually stuck paying the bill for the Russian oligarchs whose assets were seized. This is terrible, terrible news as they lead us in to so much more unpredictability. Remote viewers, okay? I want you to take this into consideration. I look at it from a spiritual perspective, not remote viewing, although I'm sure some of this is possible in the spiritual realm. But there are many remote viewers that actually see impending doom before the end of the year. I don't know if you've caught on to this yet, but they're saying the same things I've been warned about by God spiritually. that I've told you something is about to break before the end of the year. There's going to be major events. Putin will retaliate. He will reply to what the U.S. is doing. Now, there was also an article today talking about the geopolitical nature of NATO and how they're looking strongly and are on the path to absorb other countries like Japan into North Atlantic Treaty Organization to grab as much a part of Southeast Asia as they can. This, of course, is also in direct conflict with China. And this is what people primarily, as I've been warning for years, must understand, is that the United States isn't just at war with Russia. You're at war directly because of Joe Biden and these politicians. Trump would withdraw. And remember, General Milley withdrew from Afghanistan and made the United States a laughingstock, a failed war where countless brothers and sisters perished and stepped on IEDs and had their body and limbs blown apart, and many didn't make it back. And they withdrew from those crony wars. Same thing with Libya. Remember when Obama was there and Hillary Clinton said, we came, I can't say the word, left it in shambles, where now things are even worse. Because this is the agenda. China is not going to lie down here. As world reserve hegemony shifts to China, and as global reserve assets shift out of the petrodollar into a new digitized system, this means the end of dollar supremacy and the end of U.S. sovereignty. This is what is happening in the United States of America. And people are saying, well, Christopher, what do we do? Get out of the banks now. Get out of the freaking banks. Do not give these people power over your own money, your mind, your spirituality. Do not comply. Do not allow these people to continue to run you over with controls and emergency measures at a whim. From their perspective, if they can just declare an emergency and do whatever they want, then they're going to keep declaring emergencies. Wouldn't you? That's what people in power would do. And we've seen this with any tyrannical nation through history. You need to get prepared and you need to get ready now. The words that came from Trump, also the attacks on people like Russell Brand, the attacks on people like Andrew Tate, the attacks on people like Tucker Carlson and others only proves that point. They have not listed a single darn client of Jeffrey Epstein in that giant ring. There has been no news on it. No coverage from Comcast, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, even Fox News. They have mentioned nada who was in that black book. JP Morgan Chase and Jamie Dimon had to settle $300 million for doing business with the ring. But notice, they'll go on offense attacking Andrew Tate, Russell Brand, Tucker Carlson, and others, but not mention a single name of the conspirators of Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking ring, which included presidents, which included high-level politicians, bankers, Hollywood, and others. Let it sink in, ladies and gentlemen, how bad this is. So they're obviously bringing us and raging us into a boiling point. This is what I would call the mass deception. Same thing they're talking about aliens. And the Pentagon's releasing all this UFO stuff. It's all about, controlling the minds, getting people distracted and unfocused on the truth so that they can't organize, and more importantly, peacefully, they can't fight back. This is your last opportunity to get outside of the banks, ladies and gentlemen. It is your last opportunity to prep with food and water and backup power. It's your last opportunity to get decentralized with like minds. Here at islandproject.com, it is your last chance to get into worthwhile investments like Island Project before things get much, much worse. The future is building sustainable communities of freedom and liberty that operate in parallel outside of the system. I talked about this yesterday. Cash flows, large capital gains potential, 1,000x multi-billion-dollar tokenization for my founders, strength in numbers, strength in community. Roll over your IRAs now. DCA your accounts now at islandproject.com. You can do it in Portal in the Members tab. Give my father, John Greene, a call now at 808-442-2934, 808-442-2934. Stand up for yourself. Do something positive. Organize with the good guys. Get your money out of the banks before capital controls and financial lockdowns hit. We've seen this in the past. We saw it in 2008-09. We saw it recently with the collapse of major financial institutions like Credit Suisse worldwide. We saw it with the lockdowns over the last 3 years. We saw the tyranny in places like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and some parts of the USA. We've seen how these people operate. We've seen the wolves show their face. You should, if you don't already know the truth. Take advantage of the technological disruption and ride this wave and hang 10 with me and my team. Restore your own freedom. Restore your own lives. Don't just play defense. Get on the offense. The economic calamity that is ahead and the wealth transfer that they have planned for you as they systematically move most Americans into UBI and wipe out the entire middle class will be the most horrendous financial economic apocalypse that you have ever seen in your lifetime. If you go through history and you talk to other people that fled from other countries who lost everything, where their money went up in flames and no longer had value, you'd understand. And it's happening here in the United States of America. A $33 trillion debt is a hyperinflationary event that erodes the value of the currency, that eventually will be locked up and transferred into the new digital asset base. This is how they're resetting the world, folks. This is what the new normal is. I'm pumped up today because I want to encourage you guys to take bold, aggressive action now. I'll put links and down here at islandproject.com. You can fund right now. Islandproject.com. Real, true ownership of the real estate portfolio. This includes income, distributions annually, a W-9. We filed a private placement in July. A $33.5 million portfolio flagship one founders round. 86% funded, large capital gains, liquidity. In addition to that, 1,000x tokenization, a multiplier. See my intent to tokenize. Read my terms and disclaimers on our website on how I'm tokenizing this multi-billion-dollar asset class. And we're going to do it when Bitcoin is hitting new records. Bitcoin soon will be trading above 100,000. Firmly above 100,000. Everything is moving to crypto. Goldman Sachs buying crypto. All the big banks buying crypto. JP Morgan Chase releasing their own blockchain and cryptos. All real world assets will be tokenized and they're going to leave you behind. Do not be left behind. You see these little digits right here? That is decentralization. I designed the logo here for a reason because multiple flagships interconnected worldwide. These are the same concepts that billionaires like Peter Thiel and others actually institute for themselves. I've just remastered it for you. I've remastered it so you can be a digital nomad without a $100 million net worth. Yes, I can do this for myself. It could just be me and my dad. But how does that save America? How does that help people? That's not even a good survival tactic because you need people. Just like in old America, you need a strong homestead community. People you can count on, like my team, like our islandproject.com members. Organize with my members. We have all kinds of amazing people, successful people from all over the world, from every part of the world, from every part of the country. This includes men and women that serve. This includes very wealthy businessmen. This includes people in real estate, people in investments. This includes many baby boomers, like many of you tuning in. This includes young college grads, people in college, entrepreneurs that never went to college. This includes so many different people and amazing people as a part of our Freedom Network and all the positive things that we're doing to save America and to save liberty and to save freedom and to innovate in a very disruptive, dangerous environment of systematic and what I believe is pre-planned economic, financial collapse and obvious political tyranny worldwide. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. Take bold action. I'm General Greene, 1000 freaking X, links below. Share this video now.